Beloved Rose Hearts, Akasha is with you. I hold you in the grace of my own presence, my ascended master, Rose Pink Flames. May the grace of the Mother's presence be a bountiful presence within your lives. May that grace attract to you all wonderful activities into your life. God bless you, precious hearts. Our new autumn curriculum is at hand. I have asked you, and I desire that you be one with me on this, that you declare inwardly, that you accept, that you invoke, that you contemplate, that at this time, that this autumn in your year 2016 goes down on record as the beginning of a new life by grace. A new life by grace. These things can happen when there is readiness for them, when there is your own inner drive that welcomes them, when you recognize that you have been making efforts to study, to take in spiritual truths as you have for more than a year and a half. And tonight I wish to emphasize 3 ideas that will seek natural unfoldment in this new next phase of your life, a new life by grace. Ideas which urge each of you to recognize that grace itself, as it becomes functional, operational, expressive in your life, the very nature of grace acting in yourself is that it will seek every opportunity to find balance for you. Balance between living a spiritual life of grace and living exceptionally well in the world. And this is important. This is an area in which former initiates have so suffered, so much pain. In decades ago, initiates would leave homes, they would go on a spiritual trek, a soul journey. They would travel to India and other lands. They would leave behind a material sense of the world, seeking often spiritual enlightenment. And it is only when there is a sufficient change in your own consciousness and keys have been found and turned to make sure that that change is now ongoing, that change is governed by acts of grace. And years ago, perhaps you fashioned yourself to the idea of ease and grace as a powerful qualifier in your life. And so grace, this is why it is so important that you own this idea, that you trust me as much as you can, that you take Jesus' words and have such a remarkable faith that this is a new phase, a new life by grace. And as you welcome that and leave room for a little wonderful mystery, leave room for grace to be a teaching activity, especially in your feelings, and secondly, in your experiential side of life, almost holding a serene anticipation. And of course, yourself spearheading that new life by grace, by owning it, declaring it, And I would say, I would love, as you go on about the daily activities of your life, that there be even 10, 15 seconds that you just remind yourself, I have entered into another, I'm hesitant even to use the word phase, because it's not phase, that you have really shifted enough. Perhaps we'll use the words of the Holy Spirit. I have, more than I realize, been raised to a greater plateau of consciousness. And at that greater plateau, grace will seek as many opportunities to unfold in our experience and our daily life that really makes it a new life by grace. So less and less is the old story recycling. And your own life will compel you, especially with the truths that are within your consciousness and the truths that you will remind yourself. Your own life will compel you to understand that you are each individually writing the script of a new life by grace. And you don't want to get too far ahead of yourself. You don't want to get too much out in front. That's not necessary. But these are more, at this time, these are more seedlings. They're seedlings of ideas that I would like each of you to just keep planting within your consciousness, because there must come that hour when the culmination of truth, seeds of truth in your consciousness begin doing their own work. So, can you be with me on this? So important as we begin our autumn curriculum for a spectacular towards the end of the year event that will bring about a unique display of mammoth achievement at the Ascending Hearts Conclave. Now, I've chosen my words carefully, especially those words, mammoth achievement. It's probably a word I've never used before, and I've asked a son if it would fit. He said, yes, it would. He smiled. I said, are you sure? Because he tries to pull my leg once in a while. But he knows best to not do that too often. I will be with you the whole evening, by the way. Our messengers and team are on their way to New York very early in the morning, so it's early to bed this evening. So this is a seed that requires such cooperation on your part. Daily reminding, daily knowing, daily qualifying. All right? So are there steps? Are there occurrences? Things that we can do to augment, to support that new life of grace? Yes, absolutely, certainly. And one of them is to know that unlike initiates in the past who had a real tough time living a spiritual life and living effectively in the world, dealing with all the things that have to be dealt with in the world, it was the greatest challenge. And for that reason, many initiates, neophytes in the past left the world, sought a cave to meditate, and if they were fortunate and blessed enough, some greater influence may have attracted them to one of the schools of inner wisdom. But now, this is where grace The light has always done its work in the past, but over and over it is proven that the light can only take you so far. And remember, precious hearts, I announced it, I think 2 years ago now, that now the heart has to lead the way. The heart must lead the way. And only with the heart leading the way is the opportunity for more love. Then we can ensure that the glory of light does fulfill itself and that there's no going back. You understand? So what is the significant difference? Because it's fine for me to say to you, but you have to know why. For me to say to you that in this new life of grace, you will find that it is much easier to live your spiritual life and live effectively in the world at the same time. So that's that first thought that, and I wish you to expect that in this new life by grace, one of the major things that will be different is grace will seek to create for you every opportunity to master balance. The balance between living a spiritual life and living effectively in the world. And I think you know what I mean by that general statement, living effectively in the world, yes? So the balance of those two is so important. And what helps to find that balance is grace. Grace will seek that through the experience side of life, grace will seek through the contemplative side of life, grace will seek through the practitioner's treatment, that you are finding, and it's not so much something you're forcing to make happen, you are finding what will ultimately be a seamless balance between living a spiritual life and living effectively in the outer world. All right? So, how does that occur? Grace in motion. I love to say glory in action, however, grace in motion. So that's how that occurs, and that's why it's so important that you are one with me, that this is a new life by grace that we are entering into as a student body and under the authority of the Mother's dispensation and her rose pink flames and her radiant rose souls upon the earth. That's the one thing. Next, the second thought is that grace will seek to, it kind of leans on the first thought, but it expands it. Grace will seek every opportunity as far as living effectively in the outer world. Grace will seek to teach you that unlike before, where there have been constraints and challenges and limitations, in a new life by grace, grace will seek to show you that actually being in the world and being with family and attending to family, attending to business, attending to work, attending to the personal and business activities of your life, attending to social responsibilities, friendships. All of these things will now become new opportunities for you for spiritual application, because grace will teach you how to apply your spiritual life, living effectively in the world, to those various examples without having it rebound back on you, without it being something thrown back in your face as an experience. Do you understand? So that is going to be a major, major plus in your world, precious hearts. The third idea is that today you have wonderful illumination of various terms, whether we use the term mortal mind, carnal mind, the mental emotional belief in two powers, or simply, for what I'm about to say, more suited to refer to it as simply human consciousness. Because all that's, we're illumined enough to be able to generalize and know that when we say human consciousness, all the above of what I just spoke into, yes? So a new life by grace means that the human consciousness really begins to dissolve by attaining truths of higher consciousness in your mind. So in other words, maintaining truths of higher consciousness in your mind and finding all the ways that you can do that at some point really begins to dissolve the last of human consciousness that still functions in the thinking process, the last of human consciousness that still functions in the emotional body. So that's a big idea. That's the next big idea as we move into this next we are moving into, actually, since I began after the conclave in 2014 is when I began this inner journey with you. We're now entering into the third phase. If you go back months with me, pre-summer, way back, perhaps in the early spring, and I said we begin a study of omnipotence, omnipresence, yet we're going to approach it from many different ways. And for months and months we did that. That was phase 2. We're now going into phase 3 of this journey, of this spiritual application. So one of the truths that we spoke into in varying ways, and I will always seek to approach a truth from different angles, maybe even say it in slightly different versions so that it's as graspable as possible. So I have indicated that spiritual truth held in consciousness long enough will create substance that it requires to outpicture in your world of form, experience, and manifestation. Do you remember that one? Yes. I've offered in different variations of that. So I will turn you back to that. That's my responsibility, to know when to turn your attention back to something, when to place emphasis on it, because I know that truth, if we place some greater emphasis, will begin to act out. So, in this new life by grace, the most important thing next for you to know, the activity of truth held that is your higher consciousness, the activity of truth held in your mind is what dissolves the human consciousness. So that's an even easier way of saying it. The activity of truth held in your mind dissolves human consciousness. And that takes a while. Well, it's been over 1.5 years since we begun this course. So We're looking for consistency. We're looking for steadiness. We're looking for momentum. And we're looking at when can those greater powers begin to kick in and make some of these things a shifting occurrence of self in your life. So remember, my dispensation, we could say it a completely different way. We refer to it as the dispensation of the mother's presence. We refer to it as the dispensation of the rose pink flames to the earth. We can refer to it as divine grace. So that's in the dispensation. It's anchored within the Tree of Life teachings. And from what I am seeing in your feeling side of life, as your feeling is responding to the teachings you're allowing me to share with you, and as you do your best with those, I am seeing that really this is the time, with enough emphasis on grace. And you know me well enough. When I start something, I'll just go back to it and back to it and back to it until I know that that seed is planted and it will grow. And it's grace, grace, grace. Fortunately, it's the kind of word that you can come to love and never be tired of. So it's this grace acting just the way grace will be acting to help you find the balance, discern the balance. Aha, I have balance now in living my spiritual life and living effectively in the world, living successfully in the world. I have not only found my balance, I am now seeing how by grace acting in me in my life, that my everyday effective living, whether it's living with family and family interactions in my personal world, my business world, my world of work, my world of social and personal responsibilities, and all of this, I am seeing that more and more there are actually, and here's the highlight, there are actually more opportunities to live my spiritual life than if I locked myself up in some cave trying to accomplish spiritual illumination, or going off to India and finding my Swami. That day's over. Those are previous decades. That's a different period. And I wish you to look for that. I wish you to anticipate it, that this is an exciting thing, that you see that grace is shifting, and in a magical, wonderful, mysterious way. Everything in your world, the demands on family life, work life, friendships, social responsibilities, living effectively in the outer world, all of that is showing up more and more opportunities to live my spiritual life, yet living it as an act of grace. And I can tell you why grace is so absolutely lovely. It is always, 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 forever and ever, lovely and without challenges. Grace is lovely and always exists in the absence of challenges and conflict. That means that everything that comes to you, almost the uncanny ability to handle things in ways that you never had the ability to handle those things in such a way before. You almost surprise yourself. You do surprise yourself. And so that's, again, another important truth that I require you to lean on. Let that truth support you. Let you know that this new life by grace will provide the grace that when you're in your world and doing all the things that you do in your world so that you can live effectively, live successfully, live victoriously, with everything required. The experience of all of that and grace acting will create lots of opportunities for the blending, the application of your spirituality, of your spiritual life with all those things that make up your world and all those people that make up your world. Now, I'd like to say something, and I do appreciate that for some people there may not be evidence of this. But it doesn't change the truth. No one is in your life that is not supposed to be in your life. Whether they are just the most wonderful person that you just love to hang out with, or whether they are literally a pain in the, and I will stop there. But you get the idea. You get the idea. Even those people that you can say, how did you, well, you wouldn't say it to them, but you'd say it to yourself, how did this person ever get into my life?